And if you take this normal approach to these ACT science questions, you're going to be absolutely lost. I got a 36 on the ACT, including the science section. And over the last 6 years, I've helped thousands of students get to their dream scores on this test as well. Now, in this video, we're going to go in depth on the science section. We're going to get into some of the tactics and strategies, and we're going to cover the biggest mistake that I see students making on one specific question type and how we can fix that and turn the science section into one of our biggest strengths. Fixing this approach that I'm going to share with you is the absolute most important thing that you can do to improve your ACT science score. So what we're talking about here is what I call yes, yes, no, no questions on the ACT science section. And so why do I call them yes, yes, no, no questions? Well, actually 26 isn't a great example, but if we look at something like number 17, the reason they're called yes, yes, no, no questions is because the answer choices will typically look something like yes for A, yes for B, and then no for C, and then no for D. And each one of these will give different reasonings for why either yes is correct or no is correct. So let's talk about how most students like to approach a question like this and why that's wrong. So of course, on the science section, we never really read the passage. We just go straight to the questions because most of the time reading the passage will just throw us off and there's no real need to do that. Waste of time, and it actually makes it harder to answer the question sometimes. But we'll just look at question number 26 right here. Based on the results of experiment 3, which is the stronger acid, nitric acid or acetic acid? Now, most students will just go through and say, okay, well, I need to figure out whether nitric acid or acetic acid is stronger. And how do I even do that? Well, okay, it says results of experiment 3. So I'm probably going to look here, nitric acid, acetic acid. How do I figure this out? Okay, what does it mean by stronger acid? And then you have to figure out, okay, what means stronger acid? You have to hope that you understand the reasoning behind what makes something a strong acid or a weak acid. And then either you get this question right or you don't based off of some of your science knowledge. But the way that I approach these questions, and I guess just to even backtrack a second here, this is still a yes, yes, no, no question because it says nitric, nitric, acetic, acetic. So even though it doesn't say yes, yes, no, no, it's still categorized as a yes, yes, no, no question. But the way that I'll approach these questions is look first at the reasoning for why it's either nitric or acetic. And the reasoning will be parallel for A and B and C and D, typically speaking. So if we look at the reasoning for F, it says because at each concentration, the nitric acid solution had the lower pH. So nitric acid had lower pH or nitric acid had higher pH. And then H has the reasoning of acetic acid had the lower pH or acetic acid had the higher pH. So now we know exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for which acid had the higher pH or the lower pH. So now we can go back to the graphs and exclusively look for which acid had the higher or the lower pH. We don't have to go around guessing which figure we're going to look at. We don't have to even think about what we're looking for to make something a stronger or weaker acid because the answer choices point us in the right direction for doing exactly this. So now, again, we know we're looking at the results of experiment 3. So we want to hone in on the results here of experiment 3, and then nitric acid and acetic acid. So we'll want to look at the diamond thing here. I can even zoom in. We'll want to look at the diamond thing here that's empty, it's white, and the box here that's empty and that's white. And it looks like this is our acetic acid up here, this line, and it looks like this is our nitric acid down here. So we're going to say that nitric acid has the lower pH or acetic acid has the higher pH. And something that can help me keep my thoughts in line so I don't have to process as much information is I can write out some very quick shorthand notes that will take like 1 second to write out, and they will not waste any time. I can just say that acetic acid has the higher pH. So I can just say like A greater than N. And that will keep me from having to even think about which one has the higher pH in the future, because I now have this visual right here, this visual representation of exactly what I'm looking for. So if I erase this so I can see what the wording is actually saying, I know that acetic has the higher pH. So nitric has the lower pH. Well, that's correct. Nitric had the higher pH. Nope, that's wrong. Acetic had the lower pH. That's also wrong. Acetic had the higher pH. That is correct. So we've already right off the bat crossed off 2 answer choices. And that's typically how these questions will go. We'll look at the reasoning, we'll cross off 2 of the answer choices, and then we'll just use critical thinking to say, okay, well, either the lower pH causes it to be the stronger acid, or the lower pH causes it to be the weaker acid. And this is where a little bit of science knowledge can come in handy here. So the pH scale is 1 to 14, or maybe even 0 to 14. Either way, doesn't really matter. The ACT doesn't test that. And we know that acids are closer to 1 or maybe 0, and bases are closer to 14. So since nitric acid has the lower pH, it will be the stronger acid. So now we go with answer choice F. And so let's try this process out on a couple of other yes, yes, no, no questions, just to kind of see how this works in different situations. Because here we have a conflicting viewpoints passage where we've got different students. So these questions show up all the time, not just on experiment questions, but also on conflicting viewpoints questions. So let's look at number 38 and number 39 here. So 38 says, suppose that mass is 1 for cube R and mass is 2 for cube S. Based on student 3's predictions for given values of K and A, average acceleration will be greater for which cube? So again, first things first, I'm not going to worry myself too much about all the details and going back to the passage and everything like that. What I'm going to do first is look at the answer choices and specifically look at the reasoning why it's either R or S. So it says because average acceleration increases as cube mass increases. So acceleration increases as mass increases, or acceleration increases as mass decreases. Or now for H and J, acceleration increases as mass increases, acceleration increases as mass decreases. So again, there's only two options here for the reasoning. So if we can find out whether acceleration increases as mass increases, or if that's not true, then we can cross off two of the answer choices. And so now when I'm wondering where to look in the passage, I'll always go through and look at either it mentions a certain figure or a certain experiment, or in this case, it mentions student 3's predictions. So now I can just hone in entirely on what student 3 has to say. We're going to ignore student 2 and student 1 and just look at student 3. And the other thing that we can pay attention to in the question is it says for given values of K and A. So since those are given, we're not really looking at those. Again, we're looking at how mass is affected and acceleration is affected. So we'll look at this part right here where he says as mass increases. So again, I'll use my little shorthand notes to say mass increases, little arrow drawn up there, if we can tell what that is. Mass increases, average acceleration decreases. So mass increases, acceleration decreases. So now we know that these two things work in opposite directions. So if we say acceleration increases as mass increases, that's wrong. And acceleration increases as mass increases, that is also wrong. So again, we've crossed off two answer choices right off the bat without doing any real thinking here. And so now we just have to figure out whether or not this would mean that the acceleration is greater for R or the acceleration is greater for S. And we know that acceleration will be greater when mass is lower, because if mass is higher, acceleration is lower. So we can just reverse this and say that if mass is lower, then acceleration is higher. So now which one has the lower mass? And of course, they're making this as complicated as possible. They're saying that they're labeling these as cube R and cube S. I'll say R equals 1 and S equals 2, and then go back to my little shorthand note here of mass down, acceleration up. So mass down looks like is cube R. R has the lower mass. So now I'm just going to go with answer choice G. So again, this is how we can approach these yes, yes, no, no questions, also using some shorthand little like notes that I write out to save a lot of time and save a lot of brain processing power. It takes like 2 seconds to write out little notes like this, but it actually saves us from having to think a lot more. And a lot of times that can actually be quicker than not writing these notes out, because if you have to sit there and think for like 10 seconds or 15 seconds, then that's going to be wasting time that you could have just spent 2 of those seconds writing a little note like this on. So now we can look at number 39 while I clear some of this stuff off. So consider two springs, spring X and spring Y. Spring X has a smaller K than spring Y does. Student 1 would probably agree, again, student 1 will pick up on that, would probably agree that the cube would take a longer time to complete a cycle if it's attached to which spring. So spring X because it's stiffer, spring X because it's less stiff, Y because it's stiffer, or Y because it is less stiff. So first we'll have to figure out which one is stiffer. And again, this is where my little notes can come in handy. So spring X and spring Y, X has a smaller K than does spring Y. So X is smaller K than spring Y. So we'll say like for K value, X is less than Y. And again, now we're going to go back to what student 1 says. Not going to care about student 2 or student 3, just student 1. And he says, or maybe it's a she, maybe either way, as K increases, V decreases because a stiffer spring moves less freely. So if we didn't really know what K value was, in this case, we can just see K increases. That makes it a stiffer spring. So now we know that Y must be the stiffer spring because it has the larger K value. So Y is the less stiff spring. No, that's not true. X is the less stiff spring. That's true. X is the stiffer spring. That is not true. So again, very, very simple here to cross off 2 answer choices. And now we can just look, I guess, at the rest of the question. And the question was asking about student 1's opinions on which one will take longer to complete a cycle. So we know there was that piece about velocity. So if it's going to take longer to complete a cycle, we're probably looking for less velocity. So he says, or again, maybe it's a she, as K increases, V decreases. So V being decreased is actually good for what we want here because longer, we want it, we're looking for the cube that will take the longer time to complete the cycle. So we're looking for lower velocity. So, and we know that lower velocity comes as K increases. So K increases, lower velocity. And we know that Y, because again, we have our little shorthand notes here, Y has the larger K value. So we know that Y has the larger K value, which means the lower velocity, which means it will take longer to complete the cycle. So we can just say that C is the correct answer here. Again, the 2 things here are the approach to these yes, yes, no, no questions, but also these little shorthand notes. This problem became much more straightforward because I wrote out all of these little things and I was able to go back to them as we process through the rest of the question. And it made it so that 1, I didn't have to think as hard and I was way less likely to make a little small mistake and get this question wrong. And 2, I was able to save a lot of time from having to go back through my thought process and rethink about what I just said a few seconds ago. Okay, so now we can look at this final question here. This one is actually a yes, yes, no, no question because it actually says the words yes and no. The other ones actually didn't happen to say or happen to not say yes and no, but either way, we can go through one more example here. According to the results of study 2, in the beakers containing 20 grams or more of light crude oil and seawater, did 1 gram of any natural sorbents soak up more oil than did 1 gram of synthetic sorbent? And here the options are 1 gram of milkweed and cotton soaked up more oil than kanaf. Milkweed and cotton, it looks so again, same kind of structure here, milkweed, cotton, soaked up more oil than polypropylene or whatever that says. And then we've got milkweed cotton soaked up less oil than kanaf. Milkweed cotton soaked up less oil than polypropylene. So again, if I had gone straight to try and find all this information from the graphs and from the descriptions, then I wouldn't even know what I'm comparing here. But now that I've looked at the reasonings to the answer choices, I know that I'm looking at comparing milkweed and cotton with kanaf and polypropylene. So I can just go specifically to the results of study 2. Results of study 2 look like they are this table right here. And now we can look at milkweed and cotton, which it looks like are these 2 pieces right here. And we're comparing these with kanaf and poly, whatever. So it looks like we're comparing these 2 lines with these 2 lines. And obviously we have a clear differentiating point here with the milkweed and cotton being much, much higher than the other 2. So we can go through and cross off some answer choices now. Milkweed and cotton soaked up more oil. Okay, this is oil soaked up on the y-axis. So that's what we're looking for. So that's good. Soaked up more oil than poly. That's also good. And now we can say less oil than kanaf. Nope. Less oil than poly. No, that's not true. So again, we were able to cross off 2 answer choices here right off the bat. And now we can just look at the question, which is saying, did the natural sorbents soak up more oil than the synthetic sorbent? And there's 2 ways to approach this. One, we can just say, which one sounds like a synthetic sorbent here? I would say, I don't really know what kanaf or polypropylene are, but polypropylene sounds a lot more synthetic than kanaf does. So I would just go with B based off of that. If we want to confirm this, then this is where we might have to go back to the passage every once in a while and just kind of scan for the words natural and synthetic. And it says right here, it looks like we've got natural and we've got synthetic, and it tells us that the one synthetic is this polypropylene thing. So that kind of confirms my answer choice of B, knowing that we're comparing natural milkweed and cotton with synthetic, which is polypropylene. So go ahead, take this information and run with it. This is the key to the ACT science section. If we can get these question types correct every single time that we see them, then our science test will just be way easier. We'll save a lot of time and we'll get a lot more questions correct, and we can really see major improvement with our scores here. Of course, this is just one type of question on one section of the ACT. There are tons and tons of question types on the full ACT, so we need to know how to approach each and every one of those if we really want to max out our ACT score as much as possible. So if you want access to all of my knowledge and you want me to personally show your student how to solve all of the question types and make sure that they can do it for themselves, not just have information spoon-fed to them, but have them actually able to solve and recognize all of these question types on the ACT, then check out the information in the description below this video. And probably it's going to just tell you to go to my Instagram page where you can click on my profile, send me a direct message, not a comment, but a direct message. You can message me the word boost, or just tell me that you're interested in working with me personally, and I will create a personalized coaching program to get your student from wherever they are right now to their best possible score on the ACT. But other than that, stay tuned to the channel, both here on YouTube and over on Instagram, for more guides on how to improve your ACT score, get into college, and earn the most scholarship dollars. I'll see you in the next one.